Iran's missile array has been destroyed. The WASP boats are fleeing. And the next stage of the war against Iran is getting on its way. For the 12th consecutive night, the United States military completed another wave of strikes in Iran against strategic targets, including targets in Tehran. Trump is stepping up the campaign. The United States deployed one of its deadliest weapons in Iran, and the B-1 is returning for another round of strikes. Is the B-2 also on its way? Israel is on maximum alert. The IDF is preparing for the possibility that Iran could launch missiles towards Israel as early as this weekend. And despite the declarations that Iran has been defeated, the blow suffered by the United States military is now being revealed. Iran struck secret CIA facilities in the Middle East with disturbing accuracy. Who was behind these strikes? Today, we will bring you the full truth about who is really supporting Iran's Revolutionary Guards. And as we move closer to the possibility of a wider escalation, the United States is reinforcing its forces for combat against Iran. Over the past week, special forces from bases in the United States have been deployed across the Middle East. This is while fighter jet squadrons and also other military infrastructure and personnel have been positioned throughout the region. A new front in the war is taking place in shape. The Houthis attacked a Saudi tanker, and Iran blocked ships in the Strait of Hormuz. The terrorists in flip-flops attacked Saudi tankers. Those are the Houthis from Yemen. And are the gates of hell now about to open on the Houthis as well? The Houthis that are acting under the orders of Iran's Revolutionary Guards have launched a blockade of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. But on the other hand, in Yemen, the Houthi terrorist organization is trembling with fear. What is causing the Houthis' frenzy of fear? We will soon bring you the full information about this. And crude oil prices have surged to a 6-week high amidst attempts by the Revolutionary Guards to disrupt the shipping routes all across the Middle East. I'm Yair Pinto. Usually Mati Shoshani is here with me, but right now he's probably traveling somewhere beautiful and enjoying his vacation. So I wish him a happy vacation, and we miss you here on TBN Israel. We are boots on the ground. We bring you the full truth about what's happening in Israel and also the full truth about what's happening in our neighborhood, the Middle East. Today is July 3rd, 23rd. So let's begin. The United States Central Command, CENTCOM, announced that it completed another round of precision strikes inside Iran. This is as part of the ongoing military operation that has now entered its 12th consecutive night. According to the command's statements, the strikes focused on a series of military targets intended to reduce Iran's operational capabilities in the maritime and also the aerial arenas. According to CENTCOM statements, the targets included military infrastructures that were used by Iranian forces, including facilities for storing missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles, assets connected to naval capabilities, observation posts along the coastline, and air defensive systems. The United States military emphasized that the strikes were carried out using precision-guided munitions as part of the continuing effort to damage Iran's military infrastructure. Central Command stated that the objective of the operation is to significantly weaken Tehran's ability to threaten international shipping routes and freedom of navigation in the region, and also particularly to reduce the danger to the commercial vessels and to the civilian sailors that are operating the maritime arena. CENTCOM statements comes amidst continued security tensions in the Middle East and American efforts to preserve the freedom of movement along the maritime trade routes while maintaining continuous military pressure on Iran's infrastructure and operational capabilities. So, according to the statement, the operation is continuing in coordinates with its established objectives, and American forces are continuing to monitor the developments throughout this region. Officials in Washington are making it clear that they will act against any threat that endangers the maritime security and the regional stability. And by the way, it was revealed today that the United States is continuing to escalate its campaign against Iran. Senior American officials revealed that last Tuesday, the United States military deployed the strategic B-1 bomber as part of the strikes against the targets belonging to the Revolutionary Guards. This was the first time that the United States had used the aircraft since the fighting resumed 12 days ago. The B-1 bomber is considered one of the most advanced and deadly bombers in the world. It is capable of flying at supersonic speeds, carrying an enormous weapons payload that includes up to 24 bombs weighing 1 ton each, or dozens of cruise missiles and striking targets from thousands of kilometers away. And just so you know, the B-1 is not a stealth aircraft like the B-2, but it is designed for rapid, deep penetration, including low-altitude flights that makes early detection more difficult. And if its deployment is being revealed in the media specifically now, it is very possible that this is not a coincidence. It may be a deliberate message from Washington to Tehran, even without a complete official declaration from the United States military themselves. Yesterday, an unusual exchange of threats took place between Washington and Tehran. After President Trump said that for every attack on a vessel in the Strait of Hormuz, we will destroy a bridge or a power station, including in Tehran. The Speaker of the Iranian parliament responded, "If we do not sell oil, no one will sell oil." And while the United States is attacking, where does Israel fit into this picture? Israel and the United States maintain constant and open communication. The message delivered by the United States to Israel before the latest wave of strikes in Iran is now at the center of the discussions in Jerusalem. The Americans reported that they were returning heavy bombers to operational activity, and within hours it became clear that a strategic B-1 bomber had already taken part in the strike for the first time in the current round of fighting. From the perspective of Israel's political and security leadership, the central question is what Israel's role will be if the United States decides to expand the campaign. The assessment in Israel is that the American notification was intended to allow preparations for a possible Iranian response against Israel. Coordination between the early warning and the air defensive systems, adjustments to the intelligence picture, and preparations for the possibility that Iran's response will extend beyond the American arena and also be directed against Israel or against the United States allies in this region are taken into account. In Jerusalem, officials understand that the deeper American strikes, the greater the danger that the threat will expand to us as well. So alongside Israel's interests in the remaining outside the direct line of fire or joining this battle, officials in Jerusalem are now monitoring a possible gap between the Israeli objectives and the American objectives themselves. Washington presents the campaign, first and foremost, as a defense of the freedom of navigation and the regional security, while Israel is also looking at the nuclear issue, at Hezbollah, at the Gaza Strip, and the entire ring of fire that Iran is attempting to build all around us. And today, we will also bring you sensitive information showing that American intelligence officials suspect that Russia helped Iran strike secret CIA facilities in Saudi Arabia and Iraq by providing precise intelligence and upgrading Shahed drones. So stay with us. And at the same time, the Trump administration signed an agreement that will provide Saudi Arabia with a civilian nuclear program and open the door to uranium enrichment. The full details of the agreement have not yet been revealed, but according to reports, it will remain in effect for 30 days and will include a study to determine the viability of enrichment on the Saudi soil. So we will soon bring you all the details, and now we will move to the Bab el-Mandab Strait. A Saudi ship was attacked and struck by the Houthi missiles in the Red Sea, and a fire broke out on board. And earlier, The rebels in Yemen, they said that they had attacked 2 Saudi tankers that, according to them, had violated the blockade. This is after announcing naval siege against the Saudi kingdom at the beginning of the week. So, how did we reach this situation? Iran and Yemen are tightening their grip around one of the most sensitive trade arteries in the world. Ships are already recalculating their routes, and experts are warning that even a ceasefire will not necessarily stop the wave of price increases. For cargo ships approaching the Red Sea from the south, the Bab el-Mandab Strait is a narrow passage that can hardly be avoided without paying a heavy price. Yemen lies on one side, the Horn of Africa on the other, and between them is one of the most sensitive trade arteries in the world. A few missiles, drones, and explosive boats are enough to transform this route from an ordinary commercial passage into an area where no shipping company wants to take a gamble. This does not mean that the Houthis are necessarily capable of completely closing the strait, but in the shipping industry, even the possibility of a single vessel being struck can be enough. A continuing threat changes the routes, drives up insurance costs, extends the sailing times, and increases the price of almost every product transported between Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. The Houthis have begun implementing a new plan intended to deepen their military hold over the strait under the supervision of senior officials from Iran's Revolutionary Guards. The Iranians, their plan includes deploying anti-ship missiles, establishing launch sites for unmanned aerial vehicles, transferring weapons to areas overlooking the shipping routes, and transforming nearby islands into forward operation bases. One of the locations that the Houthis are determined to seize is the strategic Mount Dabas in the Hayas area of southern Hodeidah province. Its importance does not come only from its elevation. From the mountain, it is possible to observe the Bab and Mandab Strait directly and bring back systems closer to passing vessels, meaning that there would be no longer a need to rely only on long-range missiles. But behind the scenes, following the wave of assassinations of senior Yemeni government officials by Israel, and amidst fears of Israeli and American intelligence infiltration, the Houthi leadership is abandoning its offices, descending into secret tunnels, completely banning the use of cellular phones, and launching an aggressive hunt for spies suspected of transferring information. So how are the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel preparing to respond to the Houthi threat? We will soon bring you all the details. And in Lebanon, Hezbollah detonated an explosive device against a Red Cross convoy. Red Cross ambulances were damaged by the explosion of a roadside bomb in the village in southern Lebanon. And stay with us until the end of this report, because today we will also bring you the jihadist lie that has now been exposed in the Gaza Strip. The Hamas terrorist organization disguises terrorists as athletes. The IDF is presenting the true faces of the football players from the Gaza Strip. And against the background of claims circulated around the world alleging that the IDF deliberately targets innocent Palestinian athletes in the Gaza Strip, the IDF is revealing detailed data and intelligence information this evening. And according to the information, players, coaches, and even an international football referee who were presented as innocent civilians were in fact active terrorists in the military wing of Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorist groups. So stay with us. As you can see, we have a lot ahead of us. I'm Yair Pinto, and Mati Shoshani is currently on vacation, so he's not with us. We are boots on the ground, bringing you the full truth about what's happening in Israel and about the war against the Revolutionary Guard in Iran, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. And 1 second before we begin, I want to call on you to continue spreading the truth, share our content with as many people as possible. Click on the subscribe button, and most importantly, do not forget to look for me, Yair Pinto, and for Mati Shoshani on our social media accounts so you can see life through our eyes and what it's like to live in Israel under this war. I want to tell you about something that I've been following for quite a while now, something that I believe matters now more than ever, because there are people around the world who want Israel and Israeli family businesses to disappear. That's sad. Not through rockets or terrorism, but through economic pressure, boycotts, and isolation. Their goal is simple: to make it impossible for these families to survive. But there is a powerful way to push back, and it's called Lev Haolam. So let me show you how they do it. So every month, you will receive a surprise box filled with authentic products made by Israeli families, like olive oil from Judean hills and other honey from the land of Israel. I want to open it and show you to you live. They gave me a box, and I'm very excited to see it for the first time. So first of all, thank you, Lev Haolam, for sending me this sample box. And let's see what's in it now. Okay, so first of all, they have this nice summer box, it's called. Okay, check it out, summer box. And this is a sticker of the Ben Yehuda market. Inside here, we also have the pita book. Okay, check it out, the pita book, the complete pita book. Spread, salads, and Mediterranean fillings for the perfect pita. And here you have some tahini. Tahina is very good. And lots of cool stuff from Israel, like tiramisu, cookies, all made by Israeli small businesses. What's this spice? Let me show you. Falafel mix. Okay, got to try this. And then also we have here other Israeli local spices. And I think a t-shirt from Israel. Okay, so now I'll try to put everything back nicely. So basically, they are bringing goods from Israel, from the Negev. They're bringing wine from the Golan Heights, handmade ceramics, spices, skincare products, and so much more. So all of this is shipped in this box directly from the Holy Land into your doorstep. And here's what I love about this. This isn't charity. These families aren't asking for handouts. They're asking for customers around the world, for you. So every box that you receive supports real Israeli families. It strengthens local businesses, and it sends a clear message that the boycott will not win. So if you love Israel and you're looking for a practical way to stand with the people of Israel in this land, this is one of the most meaningful things that you can do. And right now, you can receive 40% off of your subscription, plus a special bonus gift box exclusively for TBN Israel viewers. Just visit levhaolam.com. Again, that's levhaolam.com, and use the promo code TBN at checkout. Or simply scan the QR code that you see on the screen, and the discount will be applied automatically. So thank you for standing with Israel and for supporting the families who call this land home. Let's get back to the news, because fire was still burning at the bow of the Saudi tanker Encilia after the missile that struck it near the Jizaz in the Red Sea. The crew survived, but the attack, it proved that Houthi blockade was no longer only a threat. A second tanker, Laila, was also named by the Houthis, although that the strike remained unconfirmed. So why open a new maritime front precisely while the United States is intensifying its campaign against Iran? Saudi Arabia has been redirecting millions of barrels towards its Red Sea terminals to reduce the dependence on the Strait of Hormuz. The Houthis are now threatening the alternative route through Bab el-Mandab. So if both passages become unreliable, shipping companies cannot simply choose the safer door. Saudi authorities confirmed that Encilia was struck and caught fire at the bow. 5 tankers changed course on Wednesday. 3 others carrying Saudi crude towards China and India had already turned around on Tuesday. the operation extends beyond one launch. Reports from Yemen describe a new deployment supervised by senior Revolutionary Guards personnel who arrived during the past 2 weeks. So anti-ship missiles and drone launchers have reportedly been redistributed around El Beya, Abyan, southern Ib, northern Taiz, and the ridges overlooking Hodeidah. Mount Das, near Hais, offers a direct view towards Bab el-Mandab and allows shorter-range weapons to move closer to the shipping lanes. Kamran Island is reportedly being used for weapons and explosive boats. The Houthis are also seeking a stronger position on Kuzkak Island in the Hanish archipelago. European naval and other authorities are advising vessels connected to Israel, the United States, Saudi Arabia to avoid the Red Sea and the Gulf of Eden. Their warning lists missiles, drones, unmanned vessels, and armed boats as realistic threats. The Houthi leadership is sounding confident at the sea, but behaves differently on land. Reports describe officials moving into concealed apartments and underground locations, banning smartphones, canceling large meetings, and also arresting suspected people that are suspected of spies around Sana'a and Hodeidah. Those precautions followed the elimination of roughly 12 senior Houthi officials in earlier precision strikes, including the head of their government. Commanders now fear that Israeli American or Saudi intelligence penetrated the circle around the leadership. That explains the dispersed weapons, ordinary civilian vehicles, and also avoidance of electricity, of cell phones that the leadership is not using now because they're afraid. Saudi Arabia also has Pakistani support. Islamabad has deployed around 8,000 personnel, approximately 16 JF-17 fighters, drones, and an HQ-9 air defensive system under the Mutual Defensive Pact. A sustained Houthi campaign could force a mediator into a fighting. Markets understood the danger. Brent crude moved from a 94.07 settlement to above 96, later approaching 98. Traders were pricing the possibility that Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb could be disrupted together. Tehran does not need every ship to sink. It needs captains, insurers, and energy companies to believe that the next voyage may not justify the risk. That effect can continue after shooting will stop, because routes require inspection, mines must be cleared, and crews need confidence before returning. So, the same morning exposed the price that already was paid by the United States of America. Visual analysis identified damage at 9 American sites during the 2 weeks since the ceasefire collapsed. The targets included barracks, drone hangars, communication facilities, radar systems, warehouses, and command buildings. At Mofak Salti Air Base in Jordan, an Iranian ballistic missile attack killed First Lieutenant Tyler James Fehan, Private Isabella Gonzalez, and Sergeant Angel Rampersad. Sergeant Michael Swinton was also killed in Iraq during the controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone. Damage was also documented at Tower 22 near the Jordanian-Syrian border, where a central structure was destroyed. And at Ahmad El Jaber Air Base in Kuwait, a radar completed only 6 months earlier was destroyed. Other strikes reached facilities in Bahrain, in Iraq, and regional airfields. 4 of the 9 sites had been hit during the earlier stages of this war. American commanders claimed earlier operations damaged or destroyed more than 85% of Iran's ballistic missile, drone, and also naval defensive industrial bases, destroyed 161 vessels, and eliminated over 90% of its naval mines. That helps explains why a small swarm craft, sometimes described as wasp boats, are dispersing from exposed piers. It does not mean that every launcher or vessel is gone. The wider American toll has reached 18 dead and more than 450 wounded. proving that Iran retains enough launchers, enough drones that can target cells to strike fixed bases across several countries in the Middle East. This is why the American reinforcement includes more than just bombers. It includes special operations. It includes special forces that can recover the air crews, secure sensitive equipment, conduct reconnaissance, and also support damaged bases. Fighter squadrons strengthen the defense and the strike capacity. Tankers extend the flight time. More than 150 medical personnel have arrived at the Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany because Washington is preparing for casualties as well as missions. The B-1 provides heavy conventional fire and also long-range standoff weapons. It does not carry the 30,000-pound JBU-57 bunker. There is still no confirmed evidence that B-2 bombers have been assigned to the next wave. Their appearance would point towards a different mission, especially against deeply buried nuclear infrastructure. Another investigation raises a more serious intelligence question. American analysts are examining whether Russia helped Iran strike CIA facilities with precise targeting information or advanced drone technology. So no final conclusion has been reached. At least 2 CIA locations were hit in March. The agency station inside the United States Embassy in Riyadh and another site in eastern Iraq. The Riyadh attack was unusually sophisticated. One modified Shahad drone opened a hole in the embassy wall, and then a second flew through the opening and detonated inside without causing casualties. Investigators suspect Russian assistance may have improved the drones through the Comtach-M satellite navigation system, which is more accurate and harder to jam than Iran's original package. Analysts are also examining possible Russian targeting data, while acknowledging that Iran may have aimed generally at the embassy and struck the CIA station by chance. And before we continue, help us keep this reporting moving. Like this report, share it, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, let me know why it's important to stand against these terrorist organizations and with the only democracy in the Middle East, which is Israel. What you see on YouTube is only part of the story. Get a closer first-hand report, behind-the-scene moments, and stories of faith, resilience, and hope from this land by going to tbn.org/journeys/boots or text boots to 316-316 for direct updates from TBN Israel with Mati Shoshani and me, Yair Pinto. By watching, you're helping us share the truth, and we encourage all of you to unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem, because this is a spiritual war. The Home Front Command has raised readiness, but there is currently no change in the public instructions. The concern is precautionary, not a specific warning that an attack is imminent. Israeli officials believe that escalation may develop in stages. Iran could first use the Houthis and Iraqi militias while preserving direct missile fire for later. That would increase the pressure without immediately giving Israel a clear reason to enter the American campaign. Jerusalem prefers to remain outside the visible fighting unless Iran attacks Israel. American forces carry the main burden, while Israel exchanges intelligence, coordinates air defenses, and prepares for a rapid response. Entering early could help Tehran recast the shipping conflict as an Israeli war. Israeli decision makers are asking 3 particular questions. What is Washington's final objective? Where is President Trump's stopping point? What will the United States expect from Israel if Iran expands its retaliation? The concern is also how the campaign will end. Washington may define success as restored navigation and renewed negotiations. Israel wants deep damage to Iran's nuclear program and its surviving missile network to be harmed. Mossad Director Roman Goffman recently visited Washington and met with CIA Director John Ratcliffe and the White House officials. And their talks covered the Iran war, the nuclear program, and also possible negotiations. The visit occurred before the latest escalation around Hormuz, showing that high-level coordination preceded the current strike wave. Washington's next diplomatic move has opened a new argument in Jerusalem. The United States and Saudi Arabia signed a civil nuclear cooperation agreement known as the 123 Agreement. Energy Secretary Chris Wright and Saudi Arabia Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, they signed the documents which now go to Congress. The agreement establishes a 30-year, multi-billion-dollar partnership led by American companies. A Saudi civilian source says that nuclear power could reduce domestic oil consumption by as much as 1.5 million barrels per day, leaving more crude for export and supplying electricity for industry, for health services, and for data centers. The disputed section concerns enrichment. The agreement reportedly allows a 2-year study of whether enrichment inside Saudi Arabia would be economically justified. If Washington approves a facility, American companies would operate sensitive sections through a controlled black box arrangement designed to prevent Saudi access to enrichment technologies. The safeguards are not bilateral and do not require the full additional protocol that is used with the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia also did not permanently renounce domestic enrichment and plutonium production, alarming non-proliferation experts and also Israeli officials. The timing creates an obvious contradiction, because Washington is demanding that Iran abandon enrichment while allowing Saudi Arabia to study a future enrichment route. The normalization requirement with Israel was also removed from this agreement, and Saudi officials say that the program is not directed against Israel, but Jerusalem lost leverage once tied to a diplomatic breakthrough. So it's not going to help improve the relations for now. The proxy conflict continues, and in southern Lebanon, 2 Red Cross ambulances were damaged when a roadside bomb exploded near Mifdaun, outside the Israeli security zone. Several medical workers were injured. Arab reports initially blamed Israel, but the IDF said that its review indicated the device was most likely planted by the Hezbollah terrorist organization. A hidden charge can injure the medical teams, produce immediate accusations against Israel, and restrict movement where Hezbollah still maintains networks outside the state control. Explosions and Israeli strikes were also reported around the Nabtia and the several southern villages as pressure on the organization continues. The final example comes from the Gaza Strip, because the IDF released intelligence